Remy, all set? All right, thanks everybody for coming. We still have a few more people that we're expecting, but I think we'll just go ahead and get started so we can finish on time and get everybody up to the next session. So my name is Carl Villamoria. I'm the director of the Illinois Collaborative. And so we're thrilled that you're all here today to help us with these new hospitals that are coming on board. The idea of a mentor, we think, is a pretty new idea for NSQIP, but I think one that we all think will be pretty valuable. If I think back to my first days of being a surgeon champion, even though having worked with the NSQIP program for many years before being a surgeon champion, I still could have used a mentor, I think, on the first few days and the first couple of years about how to use the data, how to deal with the various problems that come with being a surgeon champion and implementing change. And so I wanted to introduce a couple of the people who are here today. First in the back, we have Paula Farrell. She's standing up there. She's the operations manager for the Illinois Collaborative. Allison Dahlke's in the corner over here. She's our research manager. And then Remy, who many of you probably heard from, Remy Love, is one of the project coordinators for our collaborative. I'd also like to introduce right now, and I'll introduce him again, is Kevin O'Leary, who's here up in front. Kevin's the chief of hospital medicine at Northwestern and has a unique interest that makes him perfectly suited to this collaborative, and that's why we're partners on this. He has an interest in teaching other clinicians, particularly physicians, about quality improvement and process improvement to give them the skill set needed to actually do these things locally. So he's going to take over about halfway through and talk to you a little bit. He's had experience with collaboratives and sort of training mentors to be mentors in the past, and so he's going to talk to you a little bit about that part. Also, Amy Halverson is here. Amy works with us on the Illinois Collaborative. She's the president of the Metro Chicago ACS chapter and has been instrumental in recruiting people to the Illinois Collaborative, and we'll be focusing on a new part of the collaborative that's coming up focused on rural hospitals as well. So let me just review. Some of you probably heard the Surgeon Champion call that I did a couple months ago just to get people excited about this opportunity. But I want to tell you a little bit about the collaborative. We're up to about 42 hospitals at this point. Hospitals are going through the contracting phase here. It's a collaborative that came together with the Illinois and Metro Chicago ACS, Blue Cross Blue Shield, NSQIP program as a whole, and then our coordinating center at Northwestern. And our idea is to really just be able to facilitate quality improvement, much like the other collaboratives in Tennessee or Connecticut and Michigan. But to add a few things that we learned from all of you and hospitals in Illinois about what we thought might be helpful to new hospitals that are coming on board and joining the program. So these are the hospitals. They're scattered all over the state, clustered obviously in the Chicagoland area, but certainly a lot of the major hospitals have filled in. And toward the bottom half of the state, it's a little empty, and Blue Cross Blue Shield noted that. They're generally a silent partner in all of this. They sort of help with the funding and step aside. But one thing they noted was that we probably weren't hitting a lot of the small hospitals with this, and so they have now provided support to try to recruit another 10 to 20 hospitals that are small rural hospitals only. So that's going to be our next step. We'll probably have to come up with a different mentoring plan because the number of mentors is sort of a fixed commodity that we have. So they'll have a different sort of mentoring plan. But this is where we're at right now. There is an advisory committee. It's a multi-stakeholder group of surgeon champions and nurses, people from the coordinating center, and they met recently to sort of help set the agenda for the collaborative. Much like most of the collaboratives, our goal is to really be able to implement change, and hopefully we could do it a little more rapidly. I think most of you would probably agree with this. I usually walk around and use my hands a lot, but we're trying to videotape this for the couple people who couldn't be here, so hopefully the microphone picks it up. But I think you could all understand that over time, it takes a while to get used to NSQIP. So the blue line is just an example of a traditional hospital. This is just mock data. But it probably takes a couple years to really figure out what you're doing, and then eventually you'll see a slight decrease in the blue line in your complication rate. We hope that by having mentors and all the other things that we can offer to these Illinois hospitals, that we'll be able to get them to improve in a more meaningful and rapid way. So the Illinois Collaborative, we've been proud that it's been in the news a lot. People have picked up on it. And one of the things that whenever we get interviewed about this, people always ask about the mentor piece. And that's why we're thrilled to have you guys here. People immediately sort of the idea of mentored implementation resonates with everybody. They realize that's a great thing. Dr. O'Leary has helped to lead initiatives in Illinois, not around surgical care, but around medical readmissions and some other projects where they did mentored implementation, and that really was thought to be the key to the project. The mentors really were able to do a lot for the hospitals. So an overview of the Illinois Collaborative, we're doing a few things to help them along. Obviously providing the funding makes everybody happy, and it's probably what helped us get 42 plus hospitals into the program. We're going to give them risk-adjusted reports that are specific to the state. We learned a lot from the Tennessee Collaborative today and from Michigan recently about the kind of reports they're giving out that are very helpful. They'll have a mentor, which is all of you. There'll be a one-on-one relationship. You'll each just get one hospital to work with. They'll get a formal training. So Dr. O'Leary and his team are putting together surgery-specific quality improvement modules, which we'll share with all of you. You're not certainly required to do them, but they focus on how to learn the quality and process improvement methodology. And so we'll be putting that together. I'll show you a little more on that. They'll have a coach who's a process improvement leader. Each hospital will have their own coach. And that's somebody they'll check in with monthly to make sure that things are sort of on the right track. We'll be doing statewide projects, as well as they'll be working on local projects. We've also made pilot grants available where when they identify a problem, they'll be able to apply to the collaborative. And hopefully they'll seek your input on this and apply to the collaborative for a grant between $5,000 and $25,000 to help implement a solution. Most solutions do have a price tag, and I'm sure we all struggle with that when it comes time to implement a solution. So there certainly will be available as a coordinating center for a number of things to facilitate their process through the program. And again, we'll be having collaborative meetings twice a year. It's not expected that you all would come, but hopefully we'll be having one Illinois collaborative meeting each year here at the national meeting. And if you're available, it would be great if we had you included in that. And we'll also be giving them a lot of evidence, as the other collaboratives have, about how the program is working for them so they can justify their participation and hopefully get funding long-term from their own hospitals. So all of the hospitals that are newly enrolling in NSQIP, you all probably have various options, but we're going to start them off in one standard option. And it's going to be the procedure-targeted multi-specialty option. We sort of surveyed them and talked to them, and the advisory committee sort of settled in on this. The three operations that the Illinois hospitals identified were colectomy, total knee, and ventral hernias, three areas of interest and importance to them. So they'll be doing those three procedure targeted, and the rest will be multi-specialty. All of this we'll get out to you, so when you are talking to them, you can have sort of remember what they're working on and what module they're in. But that's just sort of the foundation of what the new hospitals will be in. The ISQIC team is similar to what you have at all of your own hospitals. There's a within the hospital team, which is the surgeon champion, and the SCR, and a quality or process improvement person from the hospital. Those are the three key people who you'll sort of be interacting on a group call, although we imagine you'll probably be talking mostly with the surgeon champion. The SCR is also going to get some specific training in project management. We heard from a lot of hospitals that they had people to do a lot of the pieces, but somebody had to really drive the projects forward and schedule meetings and make sure people kept the timelines and whatnot, and so then we're going to help them do a lot of that. And then there's also external mentorship. So again, the mentors for all of you, and then these coaches that'll check in with them frequently. The hospitals have a number of requirements that they have to meet. They get a lot of money from Blue Cross Blue Shield to do all of this, and we just, as the coordinating center, have to certify to Blue Cross Blue Shield that they met all their requirements. They're fairly straightforward. Everybody should meet them without any trouble, but they have to complete this process and quality improvement curriculum, which are online modules. So they'll complete the online modules. It's about 5 or 6 right before they get to the semi-annual meeting, and then at the semi-annual meeting, we'll sort of solidify what they learned in the modules in person. In addition to doing sort of what other collaboratives do and what we do here, in sharing experiences about successful initiatives. If people get a pilot grant, they have to report back on how it went, whether they succeeded or failed. We want to hear about it. There'll be certainly the meetings, working with you and the coaches. They'll have to do 2 projects, again locally, one and a statewide project. One other requirement that we have to try to get engagement of the leadership of the program is that they have to report their NSQIP results to the board So by putting the requirement here, we're able to get them on the agenda of their board, so they'll start to hopefully get more engagement from the board around their NSQIP results. And so that's, again, an idea that we got from many of you. And then over the two things particularly related to you guys are certainly that they have to participate in calls, and then one thing that they do have to do is try to demonstrate an improvement by the end of year 3. We particularly want this so we can justify continuing to get support for the collaborative going out, but we need them in one of the areas. And so there'll be process measures implemented as part of ISQIC in Illinois, NSQIP in Illinois as a custom field. So there'll be a few of those. They can show improvement on that, or they can show improvement on any one of their outcome measures. So we expect that they'll be able to do that. The surgeon champion, the person you'll be interacting most with, you guys are all familiar with all of these things, but it essentially has to oversee the entire program, to participate in the conferences, to lead the projects, and then ensure the success of the program. So I just want to really briefly touch on the projects that they're going to be doing. In year 1, we'll be doing a statewide project, something really easy. We're still working to identify it, but you could imagine it would be something like implementation of a checklist or a VTE bundle, something where they just get to know each other. A lot of the surgeons probably don't even know the process and quality improvement people there. I know I had that problem when I first got started. How do you get the IT people engaged? How do you get the analytics people? Just some easy project for them to work on. In year 2, they'll identify 2 projects that they work on over the next 2 years, as well as doing another statewide project. And then in year 3, they'll finish up their projects and finish up the statewide projects. Basically talked about these. And so we're still looking for ideas for these statewide projects. So if things come to mind as you're talking to your hospitals or even here, but you've heard about a lot of them here. We heard about the ARS, or now it's going to be called ARIN, I guess. That one is probably very labor intensive and difficult for a place to take on in their first year. So we're going to look for something easy, an easier win in the first year. Certainly strong for surgery, like they're doing in the state of Washington. Again, another it has some challenges to it. So we want something a little more straightforward for them to start with. But we're open to suggestions. And so I'm going to turn it over at this point to Dr. O'Leary. He's going to talk about the curriculum, a little bit about what they're going through, and then actually sort of what it takes to be a mentor and some points like that. So thanks for being here.
Sure. Thank you, Carl. So just a check on our agenda. We're a little over half done with the presentation. At the end of the presentation, we have a video showing you what a mentorship call would look like, and then we really look forward to having a discussion and some Q&A about the role and clarifying some things about ISQIC and the surgeon mentor role. So before I start with describing the training, let me tell you about the team that's developing the training. It includes Amy Halverson and me. Kathy Barsness, another surgeon, is on the team. Paula is on the team. We have a process improvement person as well. And so we're really taking what we've learned from Blue Cross Blue Shield collaboratives and training in the past and then changing it to make sure it applies specifically to surgical care. This is an overview of the training, and so you can see that all ISQIC hospital teams will go through training consisting of online modules, in-person meetings, as Carl mentioned, the NSQIP meeting, and then a January ISQIC meeting, calls with mentors and process improvement coaches and some webinars. This is a Gantt chart of what the first year will look like. You can see in September that we expect that sites that are new to having NSQIP will have their SER trained and already extracting data. Hospitals will then be expected to present to the board in October. They'll start to have conference calls with the QI coach in October, and then here's where you come in. Beginning in November, you'll start to have calls with your team, and these will occur 4 to 6 times a year. A little bit more about the online training. We're developing 13 total modules. We have 2 introductory modules, one kind of focused on NSQIP, one focused on ISQIC. Then we have 4 to 5 modules that are in development related to process improvement skills. And specifically, we're going to use Six Sigma or DMAIC. As much as possible, we're going to try to apply those lessons across the other process improvement methods that people may use in their hospital, Lean or PDSA. They're all very similar. We've chosen Six Sigma because that's what we have expertise in, but we're going to highlight the similarities across all of these different process improvement methods. Then there's a number of other modules that deal with kind of core principles and topics in healthcare quality measurement, change management, patient safety, teamwork, etc. So a little bit more about your role as the Surgeon Champion Mentor. Each hospital will have a Surgeon Champion Mentor. The Surgeon Champions mentors are people like you, people who have been successful Surgeon Champions in the past, have some experience with NSQIP and quality improvement. We're going to try as much as possible to match you with sites that are similar to your background. We expect that there's 4 to 6 phone calls with the site per year. We're going to tell you much more about those phone calls in a little bit. As Carl mentioned, we'll arrange some sort of a meeting at the annual NSQIP conference, and this is a 3-year commitment. So why are mentors important? As Carl mentioned, this is really something that we've discovered in our different collaboratives that we've had with Blue Cross Blue Shield and a number of other areas, that the teams really struggle, and you may remember your early efforts in trying to improve quality. An outside perspective is very valuable, and then someone who's an expert to help kind of navigate some of these issues that the teams are going to bump into is really helpful. It also elevates the stature of their efforts within the organization. So mentorship is really key. You may have already kind of identified that there's 2 roles that may overlap a little bit. So we're giving each site a Surgeon Champion Mentor. We're also giving them a quality process improvement coach. And so there are some similarities, but there are some important differences as well. The Surgeon Champion Mentor is really, it's a surgeon. You're all surgeons. You have expertise in surgical care and surgical quality. You have expertise in NSQIP. But we're assuming that most of you don't necessarily have a black belt in Six Sigma. That's really not your thing. But those skills are important too for these teams to succeed, and so we're going to match them all, as we said, with the quality and process improvement coach. These are non-clinicians, people who have a lot of expertise in quality improvement methods. So some of the functions of the mentor: you are an expert, as we said. You are a guide. You're going to help steer the team through the phases of ISQIC. You're going to help them understand NSQIP and some of the reports. You're going to motivate them. That's really a key feature of your role. If you reflect back on your early efforts, you probably remember some times when you were pretty frustrated and your energy level was kind of at a minimum. So we want you to help motivate and encourage the teams to pass through those trying times and to push forward. And then you're an advisor in a number of different ways, including also interacting with the surgeon, with the SCR, hiring the SCR, training the SCR, working with the SCR, etc. You will see that the teams will go through these stages of grief that, related to quality improvement data. You probably remember going through some of these stages yourself. When you first started getting NSQIP data, the first thing we all do is we deny it. We can't believe it. The next thing is we get angry and we start poking holes in the data. I do that on a regular basis because I receive new data and lots of different projects. And the first thing I do is, after I'm deny that there's a problem, I try to attack the data and find problems with it. Then you begin some bargaining. Then you get depressed, realizing that there is some room for improvement. And then the teams will accept the challenge that ISQIC has to offer. So your teams will enter these stages of grief, and again, this is part of your role as a motivator to try to help them get through these stages and on to some productive activities. You're also going to have to do some kind of reading between the lines, and this is going to be a challenge because you're not going to be on site, you're not going to be meeting in person with the teams other than perhaps at the NSQIP meeting, but on the phone you're going to have to understand the context that the team has. So you're going to have to understand through the lens of the team, what is the hospital's motivation? Do they have financial pressures? Do they see that improving quality will help them improve their reputation and improve their market share? What is the team's motivation? Is the surgeon, the SCR, the quality improvement leader, are they intrinsically motivated to improve quality? Do they have some external pressure from the C-suite or otherwise, or from the department chair? You'll see a lot of team dynamics and team decision-making style. So you'll have to take note of whether there's a team member that's too dominant or a team member who's overly passive. And you're going to have to help navigate those discussions. And then organizational willingness to change, that's really the front line. So you're going to be talking with the team, with representatives from the front line, but then they're going to have to work with frontline surgeons, nurses, et cetera, anesthesiologists. And so you're going to have to get some sense of what sort of barriers are lying beyond them at the front line. Are the frontline clinicians willing to change and engaged in this effort? And then one of the team's expectations of the mentor in ISQUIC, if the expectations are too high or too low, you need to reset those expectations. You're not supposed to do the work for the team. You're supposed to mentor the team. So the mentor calls, that's really your interaction with the team, and so we want to give you a very easy framework for that discussion, and here are the 4 steps. The first is an update, and we're going to talk more about each one of these. The second is exploration and recommendations. Third is accountability and timeline. Fourth is a wrap-up. And again, I'm going to tell you about each one of these, and then we'll see a video, and I'm just helping you to kind of prime to look for these specific types of behaviors that you can emulate. So update, this is pretty simple. On the call, you're just going to ask the team to provide you an update. It could look like this. So what has happened since our last call? What have you been able to achieve since our last call? The team's then going to give you a lot of information that you're going to have to absorb, and they're going to give you information about what data they have, what steps they've taken, what people in the organization they've talked to, and you're going to realize that they've got some barriers, and then you're going to facilitate exploring those barriers and providing some recommendations. So it could look like they've got some data from NSQIP and they're unhappy with their performance in a certain area. Well, why do you think that you have an issue in that area? What could you do to find out more about what's driving that performance? That sort of thing. So you're not gonna spoon feed them the answers. You're gonna ask them to explore it for themselves, and then you're gonna make some specific recommendations if they haven't come up with something on their own. You're gonna say something like, well, it sounds like you should do a chart review of a small number of patients to figure out what's behind it, or a focus group. But first, facilitate the exploration, help them come to their own conclusions. Next is beginning to wrap up the call. You want some specific action items at the end of the call, and the teams won't instinctively do this in the beginning. Eventually they should catch on. At first you're going to have to ask them to set kind of specific action items, timelines, and ownership. Okay, so who's going to talk to Bob and IT, and when are you going to be able to do that, Bob? That sort of thing. And then finally, you're going to wrap up, and this is just asking the team if there's anything else that needs to be discussed. Is there any other way that you can help them? And then closing with some encouragement. Again, the teams are going to be at low points at several times throughout their efforts, and you need to just help them focus on what they've done that's great, and to continue the great work that they're doing. We do want you to document these calls, but we realize that we're already asking a lot of you. We want to make this easy for you. You're going to want to do this anyway, because you're going to want to take some notes on what's going on with the calls. Remember, you're going to have calls every 2 to 3 months with the teams. It's going to be hard for you to remember what happened at the last one. So we're going to provide this for you. This is our recommended documentation form. You can see that it's got the names of the people at the site. It's got a checklist of things that we think probably should be happening at each call, and then some place for notes, and that's probably the most important part for you, to jot down some notes to refresh your memory before the next call. And this is also our way of documenting that the calls are happening and that certain things are occurring. It will help us as teams. Some teams will have tremendous success, some will have less. This will help us get a glimpse into why that is. All right, so we have this video. Do you want
I
to?
think we got to play it here.
So the goal here is to show you an exemplary call between a mentor and a team, and we'd love your reactions at the end of this. You may recognize some of the stars of the video.
You guys know how we get sound?
want to give you a 30-minute, 45-minute call.
These are hour calls up front.
Yeah.
We're really going over things.
Yep, it's upfront, of course,
Yes.
yeah. Going back, so it sounds like early contact with the team is important to establish a relationship, and then it almost sounded like also because you want to help them choose and train the SCR. Was that another piece of it?
No, I would just, you know, I mean, when some of us started NSQIP, what the hell is this?
Okay.
My chairman tells me I'm supposed to go do this. Why would I want to do it? So
Okay.
I think it'd really be nice to have a relationship with some of the people there before we actually get into
Yeah.
you know, I mean, we're all obviously either bald or gray hair syndrome, so we've been through it. And it's sort of be nice if you're truly going to mentor,
Yeah.
not to just come in late, but to come in early and say, hey, these are, you know, these are the things you can be looking for that are going to give you trouble and stuff in the future, just as opposed to just let's start a project.
Yeah. Good, thank you.
So, do I understand correctly that you're doing a bi-yearly or 6 months?
There's one meeting at NSQIP, and then one meeting in January in Illinois.
So, I don't know if you have the ability to do this. NSQIC does a quarterly meeting, and it's a 6-hour meeting, and it's sort of like a big information dump. I would urge you to consider that. It depends on what you want to do, but I think there's a lot to be learned in a quarterly meeting. So the way we do it in Michigan is we just Friday every quarter, and the meeting starts at like 8, 9 o'clock in the morning and ends at 2. And usually there's like an invited speaker and then an update of what's going on, et cetera, et cetera. It also builds the team, building. So like you get the SCRs and the surgeon champions to meet and talk about their issues, and a lot of it happens there. So it's just
I think it's good, and some of the hospitals have asked for that, more frequent meetings and whatnot. So we're going to be facilitating frequent webinars to share some of that information in between the meetings. But then I think you're right. I think as time goes on, they may want more and more, and so we could go to quarterly meetings easily. That's not a, but that's a great point.
Can you talk a little bit about the vision for the relationship between the mentors and the two coaches?
Yeah, so we've talked about that. I'd love to know what you think, but one of the things we talked about was having some joint calls with the QI coach, the surgeon mentor, and the team. That's one way to, because I think what you're getting at is it's possible that they could be giving them conflicting recommendations, because the roles do overlap. So one possibility is to have some joint calls. Another is in the webinars we could have the teams report out on some progress with both the mentors and the coaches listening in and giving some advice. What do you have suggestions?
Well, it seems like kind of fundamental to success is that this is a team building exercise.
Yeah.
And sometimes we make the teams too narrow, and that call is terrific because a member of the team isn't involved.
Yeah.
I think that's a good point.
Yeah.
I think they will. They'll be checking in with them more frequently. They'll be doing monthly check-ins with the team, but I think they should always then make themselves available when you and the team also talk and be on that call. And then certainly you guys will all be connected electronically, so you can talk to them offline if you want, electronically or by phone, whatever you need. Certainly, if you think there's a problem, that might be a good way to deal with it. The coach is going to be totally external to their hospital, and so you guys can maybe develop a plan of attack together to try how you're going to help them through a particular problem or see them solving. So we would hope that would happen between you guys as well as when everybody's there as a group.
I don't think I'm not one of the mentors, but I did go to
about the private sector hospitals. He had that talk, one of the needs that I have is still, it's more than 5 slides. It could probably boil it down to 15 slides.
Right.
There's a lot of very convincing evidence and data that is how and why this group really works, which I think is a question you would want to answer.
Yeah, I think another great opportunity for a lot of these places is to have you all come as maybe a grand round speaker or something like that, where they support you guys to come there, and it's a way to meet them in person and sort of be there. It also builds a lot of excitement. Look, our mentor is coming; he's going to give a big talk, and so I think that is another just possibility that we can put out there. So I think we'll all learn a lot from them also, or how to go through the process. It sort of forces us to be introspective, so hopefully it will benefit us as well. That documentation form that Kevin showed is something that it'd be helpful if you guys sent back to us at the end of the year. We're not interested in your comments as much, and you can make those for yourselves or whatever you need. But the checkboxes sort of help us assure that everybody's sort of moving through the process. They'll also sort of be filling out an evaluation, so you'll get some feedback as well about how your interaction is going with them. And, so they'll be doing that annually as well. We'll certainly invite you to all the sort of webinars and conference calls. You can come as you like to the different things if it interests you. We can also, we'll also be trying to set up a WebEx platform where if you guys want to do a video conference with the sites and do the meeting sort of like that, we'll set that up as well. So it's not just a conference call, you can actually see them and they can see you. So we'll work on that.
If many of these are new sites, what data are they supposed to be working on?
Not a lot of data, it's just about how to get up and running. I think those are the challenges that are hard as well, adjudicating cases, things like that. That'll be the first set. The first project they work on will sort of be agnostic to their data. We'll just be looking at the existing hospitals that are in ISQIC. We have a number of those in the collaborative and saying, look, Illinois is sort of lagging in VTE. We're going to work on that as our first year's project. So the new hospitals won't have submitted data. But then when they get to their 1 year mark, then that's where I think the mentors will come in very handy. What reports do you look at? How do I, get this out to the other people in my hospital? How do I get the resources? How do I pick which thing we're going to work on? We're 9th and 10th decile for 10 or 12 different things. I think that's where this group will really be able to shepherd the hospitals through.
So can we look at the timeline and projects, the other slide?
Oh yeah, a couple back. This one here.
And so if the startup includes the hiring and putting the thing together, then you would anticipate reporting data beginning in November, December 2014.
No, I think some are already in the process of hiring and or at least looking. They're going to be going through training as they get hired, and so whenever they start training is when they'll start extracting. And so it'll be August, September, October, hopefully for the vast majority of it is when they start extracting.
So the first 6-month period will have usually hopefully it'll be the first half of 2015.
Correct.
Is that more the target projects?
Yes.
Because they won't have the results back until fall 2015.
Correct, and that's when they'll be picking their projects, their local projects to work on based on their data, and then work on that over the next 2 years. The sort of ISQIC calendar year is the fiscal year. It starts on September 1st. That's how they came from Blue Cross. That's how we sort of will time everything September 1st. So it should work for them to be able to do that. We're happy to be flexible if it doesn't work out, and certainly if you guys see problems with how the flow is working or don't think that they can keep up with all the things, we can modify. Just let us know.
Although I think that this group does a nice job of training the SCRs, mine's already volunteered. I think all of us would feel that our SCRs should be also act a little bit in the mentoring to really solidify this. Because if I get on the call and they ask me a question about entry, something, data entry, without my SCR there, I'm sorry, I've been doing this for 10 years, but I'm still not very good at it. So
Yeah, sure.
I think that having the SCR on the call
be going, the one concern that some people have was that if we did that, they would rely on that SCR as the source of truth for how to code something. We just have to make it clear to them that they would go back to the ACS clinical support team as the source of truth. I think the ACS wants us to make sure of that as well.
I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
Would it be helpful if we had access to your online training to familiarize ourselves with the content processing focus?
Absolutely.
So we would know where y'all are coming from and we got to do this.
Yeah, absolutely. We're happy to provide it to you. In fact, we're planning on it, so we'll send it out to you guys as we send it to them, and you'll see what they see, so you know what their knowledge base should be on some of these things and how we're talking about things. Yeah, our pleasure.
It sounded like y'all were going to use the Six Sigma lean type methodology. There's the custom, the IHI, custom methodologies. Is there a conflict in that? In other words, I hate to mentor them about a methodology that I'm utilizing that, familiar to them using. I didn't know how y'all had thought that.
Yeah, as part of the application process, we asked the sites what process improvement, if any, which method they use. And as you can expect, it's all over the map, and some are using 2 or 3. The one that we have expertise in is Six Sigma and Demand, but there are more similarities than differences across these methods. And we've tried as much as possible to highlight those similarities and make this generalizable. We also have in one of the introductory modules some introduction to process improvement as an overview and highlighting the fact that people do use different methods, but there are more similarities than differences. They all have a project measure. They all have a project team. They all have a goal statement. They all have some sort of a charter or A3 or somewhere where you put an overview of the project on one piece of paper. So there are far more similarities than differences, and we're going to try to highlight that. But we thought it was a little bit too hard to create our own kind of generic process improvement method that crossed all of these. We felt it was important to choose one. So we do. We choose one.
So they don't really conflict, though.
They don't really conflict
Yeah.
much.
No, I agree. I think they really sort of share almost.
Yeah.
A lot of the same similarities, and I think that there's a possibility that they could be introduced to some other process
Yeah.
that might come up. And then as far as the phone documentation, I'd be better than I could behind if I do it on a yearly basis. It might not work, but would that be an online, sent back online fax or anything else?
Well, what do you think would be best? We have the form, and each call for the year is on there, and we could set it up a number of ways. We figure you'd want to look back to the previous call so you can remember what you sort of talked about with them. And so you would fill it out as you went and just store it on your computer and then just email us back that Word document at the end of the year. We're happy to consider other options if you think there's something that would work better.
Yeah, email's fine.
Okay.
Just
That's a good
something like
question.
this, some definite what it is.
Yeah, no, we'll specify that. Yeah. We'll put the email address to send it back to, and then we'll prompt you also when it's time to send it back and whatnot, so, you don't have to worry to remember that. Does this sound like something that's gonna be helpful for the new hospitals? Well, as this goes on, we're happy to take other comments or suggestions on what else they could need. Anything else off the top of your head right now that you think that they need that we're sort of not helping them with?
I don't know about them, we may need, I may need help in having resources that, or in kind of ability to find where do we go to get this, maybe some sort of a facilitation, carefully, so, once in a while, we should do that and say, this particular thing is, I think it's going to be about how it's done.
Okay.
Will help support us.
So more of a,
Create some sort of listserv among everybody
Yeah.
here. And at least, I don't think it's, I don't know everybody here, I'm assuming that everybody here doesn't know everybody here. Maybe I'm wrong.
Sure, right. So some troubleshooting forum. So it could be as simple as a listserv, or it could be an email to the coordinating center. Would it be helpful for one of us to listen in on one of the first calls? Going as planned?
Translated the way you.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we hope that there are these formal calls, but then you do develop this relationship with the person, the surgeon champion in particular, that they can call you or email you as they need. And you guys meet up when you're here at the annual meeting and get a cup of coffee and chat there. You know, it should be a nice relationship. If it's ever not working, you think you feel like you have to be reassigned or some conflict, let us know. We're happy to work through all that.
Well, I don't know if you do your homework, so to speak, but at the same time, it would be useful to share with them some outlines for what we can do.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I just don't want to cross a line and jump rules.
I think what we're just recommending that you don't solve their problems for them, for two reasons. One, they have to kind of figure things out for themselves, and they know their context better than we do over the phone, right? So you want to ask questions to help them arrive at their own solutions as much as possible. But if you've got some useful material to share with them, please share it. This has been incredibly helpful. We've jotted down a lot of notes, and we'll make some adjustments related to this. So we thank you very much.
All right. Well, thanks for coming. Really appreciate everybody doing it. Please email us.